Hello, this is Michael. I'd show you my face, but I'm not going to. This is Michael's goats. I'm making this little video because I have some friends and family who wanted to see what it is we were doing out here, specifically our little aquaponics experiment and our little goat people. There's our little goat people. That's Lucy. Going over there drinking behind that piece of plastic is Abby. This is our little plastic greenhouse. It's a structure that used to be well, it started out as a greenhouse. The people who lived here before us turned it into a horse stall. Thus it looks like the horse barn. We kind of refitted it with some 10 mil plastic to be a greenhouse again. That's the outside. Heading in, I'm going to pass our little chicken coop where the girls are living, hiding away, into the greenhouse where the aquaponic experiment is taking place. It is very much under construction. The system has only been up and running for about 3 weeks, give or take, with water and fish in it. So everything you see is just at the very beginning. I'll take you on a little tour here. First, we'll start at the bottom. At the bottom is the sump. What this is a 55-gallon plastic drum that is about half buried underground. At the bottom of that is a 1,000 gallon per hour, basically a waterfall pump that's plumbed into this PVC. The PVC sends that water along here. It's a real tour. Behind the chair, up the wall, over the door to the goat pen, down into the aquarium. And by aquarium I mean a large IBC, intermediate bulk container, which is just a big plastic jug. I've covered it with a tarp to keep the sun from getting to it, keep it from heating up and growing algae. In the tank we have a bunch of goldfish. About 60, well, there's probably about 70 1-inch to 2-inch goldfish in there, just having a good time. You can see we've got a lot of water coming down, squirting down, giving some good aeration. From the tank, the water, once the fish do their thing in there, the tank utilizes a solids lift drain, which basically is a pipe that lifts it off the bottom and comes over the top here and drains over this side here. Right now I don't have that solid lift in place. That pipe you see going across the top typically sits down in the tank and sits against the side right over here. I don't want to go too far. Sits right over there and drains down over here. Right now I'm skimming the surface, and it's kind of handy because I can skim the surface by simply taking that off and letting all of the surface debris come out and run down the drain. After the water comes out there, it goes down the drain over here, goes behind the chair again, around the room, behind the grow beds, and ends up right there where that colander sits. I won't try to explain what that colander is for. You can figure it out. But it drains into this tank here. This tank is we refer to it as a raft system. It's essentially it's a tank of water. It's 4 feet wide and 10 feet long and 12 inches deep. The water from the fish tank comes into this raft system and provides, well, what in theory is nutrition for all of these plants. Right now these plants include some mustard greens and some butter crunch lettuce and some strawberries and basil and more lettuce and some peas and whatnot. All these plants are essentially, well, sacrificial. The system is young enough that it's not producing the nutrients that it's supposed to provide yet, but it's well on its way. I'll explain that maybe. After it comes out of this tank, it runs out this hole in the side through a bulkhead fitting back into the sump. It actually goes through that little white bucket, which is just a plastic bucket hung by a galvanized wire. It has a bunch of holes in the bottom, and it's filled with a filter media. So it's a very simplified mechanical filter, which is actually very effective. It clears the water right up. And from there it goes back into the aquarium, or into the fish tank over there behind the ladder. The ladder's there so the 3-year-old can watch the goldfish. She likes it very much. And feed the goldfish. On the way to that tank, you see there's a split. We have it teed off here. Some of the water that doesn't go back to the tank gets split off and drops into this grow bed over here. Which again, remember, this is all very preliminary. These plants are new and the system is new. This grow bed is 30 inches wide by 10 feet long by about a foot deep, and it's filled with pea gravel. It's just a small local pea gravel that tested as non-effective as far as adding or detracting from pH. It's pretty neutral. No limestone in there. What happens in here is that it will continuously fill up. The water comes out of that little pipe right there and fills this tank full of gravel up until it's full, almost to the point where, let's see if I can see some water here, it's not going to show us, until it's just below the surface of the gravel. You can see that from here. There's a little plastic standpipe there that sets the upper level of the water. The water will fill up to until it reaches the level of that standpipe, and then this, which is basically a simplified bell siphon, will kick in, and the siphon action of the bell siphon over that standpipe drains the bed out, and all of the water from the bed drains out quite quickly through this 1-inch PVC pipe here and drops back into the raft system. So it goes from the fill and drain bed into the raft system, back into the sump, then recirculates through the system. So it goes from the sump to the fish tank. Well, from the sump it splits partly to the fish tank and partly to the fill and drain bed, and then it all drains into the raft bed, and then it goes back into the sump. That's it for now. What's happening right now, since the system is brand new, is referred to in the aquaponics forums and whatnot as cycling. What happens, and what we want to have happen, is that the fish in their tank, back here doing their thing, hidden away in the dark, they poop, and they extrude, or they excrete ammonia from their gills. As the feces break down, and as the uneaten food breaks down, and as that ammonia comes into the water, well, ammonia accumulates. The ammonia comes on over here to our gravel-filled grow bed, and all of the surface area that's provided by this gravel, which is enormous, there's many football fields worth of surface created by this gravel, allow bacteria to colonize. And there's a couple of different types of bacteria that we're looking for. And without remembering the specific names, one of those bacteria will take the ammonia that the fish and the deteriorating waste creates and convert it to nitrites. And then another bacteria will move in and it will feed on those nitrites and actually convert them to nitrates. And those nitrates, along with some trace elements and nutrients that come through the water, are a very nutritious solution for our plants. The plants then take up those nitrates and filter the water and send it back clean to the fish. So we have something of a semi-closed system. The fish provide the nutrition and the fertilizer for the plants, and the plants clean up the water for the fish. If you look online and do any checking for aquaponics and watch how this works, this is a terrific system for generating vegetation. The plants that we have here are brand new. Like I said, they're essentially sacrificial. We put the peas in when we first started cycling the system, and they just took off for some reason. They liked it, but they're kind of mellowing out now. We put these peas in just as seeds, and they just sprung right up. It seems like peas like the cycling part of the system. The radishes here, they were the first thing we put in, and they're the first thing that sprouted. They also aren't doing all that great, and they're not too happy about the quality of the water right now. And like I mentioned, we're still cycling, and we're in the midst of a pretty significant nitrite spike, which is actually supposed to be toxic to the fish at this point. These goldfish in there are pretty hardy, and they're taking it pretty well. But they're not doing too badly. These radishes have been in there longer than any other plant in the beds, any of the beds. And they're just hanging in there. We'll see where they go. My expectation is that we'll just pull them all out once the cycle is mature, and we'll replant it with healthy plants. This tomato is another experimental tomato that we brought in. We brought it in from a nursery just down the road a bit, just to see how it would take the transplant and see how it would behave, and it seems to be pretty happy about it. Back here we call these Livy beans. Olivia planted these beans. They're just right along the edge there, and we expect them to do well. They germinated in about 4 days, and the growth that you see there is only about 3 days worth of growth. So we laid out a little galvanized trellis for them, and we'll see what we can do about actually harvesting some beans out of this. And it's a lot of fun. We're pretty excited about being able to really grow some vegetables out here. And from everything we've researched and everything we've seen, there's a lot of potential for some, well, serious salads. Over here behind it, you're probably curious about what this big bathtub full of green goop is. This is independent of the aquaponic system. It's not tied in with the fish or the filters. This is just a pit in the ground that we filled with agricultural water. We put a pond filter in it and a little bubbler to give it some aeration. You can kind of see bubbling away in that little standpipe there. And we gave it just a little bit of fertilizer, a little bit of hydroponic fertilizer, and we dropped in some duckweed. That little green scum you see on the surface is actually a plant called duckweed that is doing amazingly well here. If you Google duckweed, it's one of the smallest flowering plants there is, and it's a pretty good little crop. The thing about duckweed is that goldfish love it, and so do tilapia, and so do carp, and so do koi, so do any of the herbivore fish that you could grow in a great big tank in the corner. Specifically catfish and bluegill. I fully intend to have this to be the primary feed source for those catfish and bluegill, with some obviously we're going to have to supplement it with some other nutrients, since we can't actually have a closed system. It doesn't work that way. We'll need to add some trace minerals and some trace nutrition for them to be okay. As you can see, it grows pretty fast. Duckweed will actually double its mass every 24 to 48 hours under good conditions. And this seems to be good conditions, because it sure is doubling its mass awfully fast. This it's kind of a fun little plant. The chickens love it. They eat it, and eat it. So this will feed the chickens. It'll feed the fish. The goats, they're not so sure about it, but evidently it's pretty good goat feed as well if we can convince them that it's delicious. We'll see. This basketful is just sitting here drying out, waiting to go to the chickens. I actually cleared most of this surface off this morning, and it's spread out pretty nicely, and I expect it to be a mat again by this time tomorrow. So that's a little duckweed pond. It's just a little supplemental crop to feed the fish and to feed the chickens, and hopefully feed the goats a little bit. Look up duckweed. It's a pretty amazing plant. You can accomplish quite a bit with it. And they're looking at it for biofuels, and they're looking at it for nutritional supplements, because it grows so readily and so quickly in such diverse environments. So there you go. Let's see, back over here. This is a work in progress. This is going to be an NFT, a nutrient film technique kind of a bed, and I intend for this to be completely full of strawberries. This is going to be the wall of strawberries, most likely. Well, you never know. It could also be filled with herbs. It could be filled with a lot of things. This is just a 4-inch ABS pipe that's closed off on both ends, with a little drain in the bottom. You see a little, used a polyurethane, or excuse me, oh crap, just a rubber grommet that sits down inside this little drain here. And the drain's tied into the main drain. I've got a, look under the chair here, I've got a tee off of the main pressurized system from the pond pump, where I can run a drip system into these little grow beds, these little miniature grow beds. One of the ideas behind these is that they'll be portable, that I can set up a display with these guys, where I can take a group of them filled with herbs, or filled with strawberries, or filled with vegetables, and take them down and set them up at a farmer's market with a small fish tank, and demonstrate what's possible with aquaponics. I think that would be fun. And if that all fails because of California political reasons, then this will be a giant hanging fish-fed strawberry bed. That's right, giant hanging fish-fed strawberry bed. I like that. Alright, and that's the tour. Looks kind of cool. The future plans include some Dutch buckets being brought in and set around the front of this. We've got quite a bit of space to work with over here. Pardon the mess, we've got a bunch of clutter over here from the builds. Over here we've got a very messy little potting table with our water testers and chemicals and tools and fish food and seeds and stuff all over the place in my usual beautiful organizational style garbage can. Again, this is the door to the goats. And when it's all growing, full of vegetation, with everything coming up and ready to put on the table, this should be a really beautiful sight. So thanks. I hope it gives you an idea of what we're after here.